What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here alongside Josh Davis. Happy Monday. Happy couple of hours until maybe the game of the year. I feel like we've said that with Philadelphia a couple of times this season, Miami and the Dallas Cowboys. But Josh, welcome in. This is the game of the year. This is the Super Bowl rematch we've been waiting since February for, and it's just a couple hours away.
It is, yeah. It feels a little bit odd because we've talked about this, or talked about this right before the show. But a Monday usually feels like a game recap. We haven't had a Monday Night Football game in a while, but it's awesome because we're going to be in the national spotlight. It feels very reminiscent of the Super Bowl, of course. Is it a revenge game? I know some people are saying that. I kind of joked about it a little bit too. I don't know that it's really a revenge game, and most of the Eagles are saying not really because it's a regular season game. Like, right, if you win the game, it's not like we're hoisting a trophy, and it's different players on the team now. A lot of them the same, and the key players. Yeah, it's not really like a big revenge game from that sense. So I'm looking forward to it. Let me try to mute that. I don't know if you heard that, but sorry. But no, I'm looking forward to it. There's so many key storylines to talk about. One of the most exciting, I don't know if you want to just jump in there right now because you were talking about it yesterday on the show, but Nolan Smith, I mean, this could be the game. Like he's going to get a little more snaps, but again, how many will he be? Who knows? Probably not a whole lot extra, but Derek Barnett being out for personal reasons, as much as we trash or dog on Derek Barnett, we will say hopefully prayers up that everything's okay. Personal reasons are never good. But on the positive side, the silver lining, like we've talked about, do we see more Nolan Smith, and what do we expect from him there?
I think we will. I think it'll be what he did in the Miami Dolphins game, right? A couple more snaps here and there. He has a chance to continue his on-field education. I said it on my show yesterday. Nolan Smith's not going to break out this year. He's not going to have a 4-sack game. He's not going to finish with over probably 3, maybe 4 sacks the entire season. His job, though, is to learn. He's getting his master's degree right now in pass rushing. He got his undergrad at Georgia, and now he's trying to figure it out in Philadelphia. And all I want to see from him is continued progress and a big leap in year 2 from where it was in year 1. So I don't expect big things from him. I do expect big things from this Eagles front four. I went back and watched a little bit of the Denver Broncos win against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago in Denver. Very similar conditions, maybe a little bit warmer, but that kind of cold, cloudy, overcast. That's kind of the forecast for today in Kansas City, especially for tonight. They got after Patrick Mahomes. He was running for his life, and he threw multiple really, really bad interceptions. And every single quarterback, whether you're Mahomes or Zach Wilson, you get consistent pressure up the middle, around the edges. You get hit multiple times. You're not invincible. You're not going to be perfect. Brady, historically, against the Giants, always had this problem in the Super Bowls that he played against them. The Eagles' one big flaw in Super Bowl 57 was not being able to get any sort of pressure. And we can talk about seed and sod and grass and sod father and all that sort of junk. But in the end, had they gotten to Mahomes a couple of more times, they probably win that football game. If they get to him tonight, I've said it all week long, Josh. I don't know about you. I'm confident. I'm very confident in this game. And if they sack Mahomes 3 times and he throws an interception, Philly wins by more than 7. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Oh, I think so, for sure. You got to get to him. It's not impossible. It is a little bit difficult, but I'm with you in terms of the cold weather and the nature that the Denver Broncos did. I mean, you talk about Mahomes has only been sacked 12 times through the 9 games this season. So Jalen Hurts, in comparison, is 22 times being sacked. So if you want to just look at the eye test or what that's felt like, it's not very often, but it's not impossible. And to your point, with the pass rush that we have, I mean, they probably want to prove something, I would assume, coming from the Super Bowl and everyone saying, regardless of, like you're talking about, the grass and the field for the Super Bowl, I mean, they got a lot of hate. Like, everyone's like, oh, I had this vaunted pass rush. It didn't show up on the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, really? You're going to talk about that after we saw the field conditions? I mean, neither team could get a footing. But, I think that this is important. You can make a stand in this game. And I totally agree. And by the way, just a real quick shout out to NKC X44 says, hi, I'm a big fan. Please say you see this. Awesome. Appreciate that. All you guys hanging out right now, come tonight. If you haven't checked out the live stream, we're going to have a watch party, have a blast tonight. So just be sure to turn the notifications on. We're going to have a really, really good time supporting the Eagles and cheering them on. And we'll always do some fun stuff there too. So, but no, I'm with you. I think this is a key matchup as far as the D line goes. The interior of the Chiefs offensive line is good. I mean, we know that. Joe Thuney, you've got, I'm drawing a blank on the center's name now.
Humphrey.
Creed Humphrey. And they've got some really good protection up the middle. The outside, like we talked about, I mean, that seems to be a little bit more susceptible. But then the question becomes, and we've seen this a number of times, and I hate to always bring it up, but, I mean, we saw in the Super Bowl, most importantly, is Mahomes seems to just scramble out of the areas that you have him under contained. It's like, oh, you're about to get him. All of a sudden, it keeps a play alive. Do we see a little bit of a difference? And if we do, is there a way that perhaps, and I talked about this a little bit, but curious to get your thoughts, is this a Jalen Carter and a Jordan Davis type of game? And Fletch, I know Fletch is going to be important, but like a
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis to really impose their will on the interior. Because I think if you can get the interior push front, it changes Mahomes' ability to continue to run around and keep the play alive. Do you expect to see kind of a bigger game? It's definitely a test, but what do you expect to see from those two?
I mean, you mentioned it. Humphrey in the middle, it's a big test. That interior Chiefs offensive line is very, very good. And Mahomes has always done this, right? If he can extend plays, his receivers find ways to get open. Although I said this a couple of weeks ago, or really just a couple of days ago, Mahomes' weapons aren't as good. Like his scrambling ability, Mahomes is not dipped at all, right? The level of talent around him has. Now, doesn't mean that the Chiefs are much worse than they were last season. I don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster makes that big of a difference, but no longer do you have a scenario where if you don't get to Mahomes in the first 3 seconds, he's going to spin out of a tackle, he's going to run around to his right and find Tyreek Hill for, 60 yards. It just doesn't exist anymore. It really is Kelce and Pacheco, and Philadelphia's been fantastic in the interior, against the run. And so if you slow down Pacheco, all you have to do is make sure Kelce doesn't have a vintage 12 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns, and your defense should be able to hold on. Now, James Bradbury got cooked in that Super Bowl by Juju Smith-Schuster. And holding penalty aside, he had a bad game.
Yeah.
Didn't have a great game against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of weeks ago either. To me, you talked about this being a revenge game. They might not be broadcasting that out to the media. Internally, though, you've got to think that there's guys like James Bradbury who's sitting back and saying, I'm going to get mine tonight. Like, I'm going to make sure that I am not the reason Philadelphia loses tonight. I'm going to make sure that I'm locking down Sky Moore, or I'm locking down, Kelce if I line up against him at times on the outside or moving on the inside. Whatever it is, I think there are guys in this football team who personally take the Super Bowl loss very, very seriously and want to make sure that they are not the reasons why Philadelphia could lose and get their second loss tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you for sure. I mean, there's lots of emotions, as much as people may want to see it, and you're talking about it as well. But I mean, to Jordan Mailata, it's definitely personal, and that's the one clear, player who's just come right out and said, I don't care what people are saying. Like, it is personal to me. Some people may think that, some people may not, but I think deep down, there's probably a little more than that we're actually admitting to it, and that's fine, but just use it for the extra motivation on the field. So I hope that we see it. Also, shout out King DV Sports. We have to utilize the interior of the offensive line to get to Mahomes. I assume defensive line. I like our edge rushers versus their tackles. Agree there. China says the watch party is lit. They go through so many emotions. It's like watching Inside Out, but with Eagles gear. That's not a plant, just for people who are wondering.
Yeah,
but yes, it's an awesome watch party. And then shout out Joe Castro. Let's go. Go Birds.
There he is.
Love that. But
shout out Joe's tweet earlier today as well. I like that as
there
well.
There you go. Hey,
Joe,
we appreciate this support. We got to get
Joe's
Joe on.
watching.
We haven't actually done that. Joe's got to come on sometime. But no, for we're talking about the QBs running, Mahomes being able to kind of get out of situations. The same for Jalen. I mean, we know that Jalen's proven it, and he's healthier. So that's great news. To what extent, what percentage, we don't know for sure. But regardless, I mean, he mentioned that the bye week really helped with the knee. It came at perfect time. We're going to see a lot better. Reports are from practice. He was moving laterally very well. No signs of an injury on that side. So do we expect to see, I guess twofold, do we expect to see Brian Johnson call running plays and QB draws? And then also to the other token of that, from the attack from the attack that Hurts can be in the ground game, is that something that maybe the RPO opens up, is a little bit better, because the running game, as we know, has been subpar, I think, at best?
No, I think RPOs are going to start to kind of open up a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. And I saw a tweet from, what was it, Ellie Shore Parks, who said, I wouldn't give the Chiefs, my best shot. I wouldn't reveal my defensive plan. I'd save it for the Super Bowl. And I get his idea, but it's a classic Ellie Shore Parks, clickbait, rage tweet, try to make you react to it. Listen up. The Lions won yesterday. The Lions were down 12 with 4 minutes to go. They came back and won. They're one loss behind you. Dallas, they rolled yesterday, despite the fact that they were only up 7 in the fourth quarter against the Carolina Panthers. And, of course, the 49ers, seemingly after their 3-game losing streak, they're back. Brock Purdy had a perfect passer rating. There are 3 teams in the NFC that are right below Philadelphia. They're, like, right over there. And if Philly slips up at all the next couple of weeks, the room for error for the number 1 seed starts to change a little bit in terms of, what if you're the 2 seed? What if Detroit is the 1 seed? What if you got to play the Niners in the divisional round versus the NFC title game? I would give the Chiefs everything that I have. And if that includes running Jalen Hurts and using some more RPO than you have, as long as he's healthier, like you said, and apparently he is, no knee brace on at practice this entire week. He mentioned it in the post-game or the press conferences on, Wednesday, with a smile, which is rare, that I'm feeling better. I would run him. I would use it. You can't sit back and keep saving things, right? The first couple of weeks of the season, maybe the first month of the year, sure. We don't want to give them all the secrets. We don't want to give them every single disguised blitz or every single offensive running scheme or every single, RPO, whatever. The time is now. The Eagles need to get the number 1 seed. I can't keep emphasizing that enough. You have a tough stretch here. You have the Chiefs. You have the Bills, who finally got back on track offensively yesterday. Then you play the Niners. Then you go ahead and play the Dallas Cowboys. They need to win as many games as possible. It starts tonight. If they go 3-1 over the next 4, or heck, 4-0, you're the 1 seed, and you're 2 wins away from going back to the Super Bowl, something Philadelphia has never been able to do.
No, and that's huge to your point. Getting the home field advantage, we talked about it a number of times. Everyone, I think, realizes that, but it's still a little bit odd. And I know everyone hated it yesterday with the Lions game. I'm thinking, this is going to be great, right? The Bears are going to come away with a win. This is going to be fantastic. Who would have seen this coming? Because as we look through their schedule, that's one of them you probably chalked up as, they're going to win that one. That's not going to be too difficult. And sure as the world, they still win it. But it would have been great. But yes, right now, I mean, the main competition in terms of that top spot is the Detroit Lions, especially with the way looking at their schedule. So I don't know. I'm hoping maybe there's a slip up. They don't have, a for sure, guarantee. Obviously, as we know in the NFL, there's no guarantee, but there's a couple potentials. Maybe we're even rooting for Dallas in week 17 against Detroit. So who knows there? But yes, I think if you take care of business, the beauty is, we control our destiny right now. Like we went out, like you talked about, or we could even probably lose one game and still be perfectly fine. So, there's plenty of time. Really, it's the focus on the present. As we know, you've got the Chiefs right now to make a big statement. I think that as much as we talk about the team saying, again, this is just another game. I know Sirianni's mentioned it. He's also said whenever you watch the tape that there were moments where he goes, oh gosh, you want to have that one back because it's human nature. And so they can talk about all they want. I think you believe too a little bit. It's probably a little bit of a heightened extra game because we've got that. And let's not forget, we haven't beat Big Red, 0-4. And Fletcher Cox talked about it too. He's like, oh yeah, I know that stat. It's one that, there's extra motivation there. So whether they're going to come right out and say it, do we get the win against Big Red Monday Night Football in Kansas City? It's going to be difficult. I don't expect it to be a runaway. I think you're a little bit more optimistic though. Your score prediction was, remind me again, was it 7 points?
27-21. It was 6.
27-21, 6 points. Okay. I could say I'm a little bit closer. I went 24-21, but still lower-ish scoring. I don't know that we'll get into the 30s like we did for the Super Bowl.
Think about the opportunity tonight, though, right? It's not just revenge. Take the Super Bowl loss out of the picture. You are 8-1, right? Couple of your better wins, though, you almost blew it against Dallas. If you want to be glass half empty, right? Almost blew it against Dallas. The Dolphins are not the juggernaut team that we thought they were. They almost lost to the Raiders yesterday. Philadelphia has had some games where you sit back and go, okay, stuff needs to be cleaned up. And the national media, they see that, and they obviously adjust their rankings. Is Baltimore better? Are the Chiefs better? Dallas is hot. Are they better right now? We see all that noise. You have a chance to go into this week playing against Big Red against a bye, which is virtually impossible to do in terms of win. You're at Arrowhead, maybe the hardest place to play outside of Seattle, right? In terms of a road game, prime time, Arrowhead, that's difficult. Mahomes coming off a bye who you've never beaten. And you are beginning what is going to be the hardest stretch in the National Football League for any football team, right? So not only are you having to worry about KC tonight, but you got to play resurgent Buffalo with Joe Brady, offensive coordinator, next week. Then you got to play the 49ers NFC title game rematch. Then you play Dallas on the road. Dak hasn't lost in 13 games or something ridiculous like that at Cowboy Stadium. Seriously, tonight is an opportunity. If you go win this game, what else are they going to say about you? Nothing. There's nothing else that they can say about you because you would have done it all. You would have beaten the best team in the league on the road, off of a bye, with the Super Bowl loss hanging over. I just can't wait for it. I was excited for the Cowboy game. I really was. That was game of the year for me. This feels 10x more important. This feels 10x bigger. And it's not just because Monday night versus Sunday afternoon. This feels way, way bigger for all the reasons that I just stated.
Yeah, it's a big game. I agree with you. Again, it's Dallas is different as we know, but yes, as far as this game here, it's massive. Certainly, if you win it, are the media or people going to find flaws even if we win? Probably. It's just a never-ending cycle with the Eagles. But I agree with you. Like if you win this, it's the statement game. An extra one because there's not as many excuses. They'll still find some, but there's not as many excuses in this of. you did go into all the reasons that you mentioned of why it would be an incredible win and kind of a statement to continue on from here. China says here too, I believe it too because of Jay. Kelce saying he hasn't beat them yet in his career. The young guys are going to get the dub for him. I think so. I think
Yeah, I
everyone
like
also
that.
wants to rally around. They're seeing this is probably Kelce's last season. It's
Mhm.
an extra motivation, right? You want to send him out like beat younger brother. It's always a good storyline there. So I'm curious to see though because with the offense. The offense has been playing really well, and we got to give kudos to Brian Johnson. As much as we knocked him early on in the
Yeah,
season, there were some
much
issues,
better.
and, the red zone, all that other stuff. He's gotten much better. But this Chiefs defense is not the Chiefs defense of the Super Bowl. And just to
Right.
make sure, remind everyone, like in the past, in the Super Bowl, yeah, we put up 35, and the Chiefs defense was not the one that carried the team. It was the offense. But you fast forward now, the Chiefs are what is 17 points per game, I think is what they're
It's
averaging. It's a
low.
really low number,
It's
and they're second
really
in
good.
sacks. So I see this as more of a kind of grinded out defensive battle, cold weather. I think did the rain officially kind of move out or not as likely? I know it was
I think
kind
it
of going to be
will,
likely.
right?
Will it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you have that factor too. Do we see this as a potential? We mentioned it briefly, but Cam Jurgens going to be back. So you got your right guard situation there. Everyone's talked about it. You and I have talked about it. How much does he help the running game? I think he does. But do we see it where this game is really a running game, a chance for kind of imposing your will? Because the Chiefs' defense, if you want to find any weaknesses or areas, is yards per carry allowed. Now, teams don't run very often, similar to like they don't run very often against us.
Right.
But when they do run against the Chiefs, they're giving up 4.6 yards a carry. Do we see a resurgence of Agent Zero? Do you believe maybe it's Kenny Gainwell night or possibly randomly a Rashad Penny sighting? What do you expect from the running game?
I think they're going to try. I think that first drive, I mean, we talk about the scripted drives for Brian Johnson being fantastic. He's been incredible the past couple of weeks and getting them in the end zone on the opening drive. I think you're going to see a lot of Agent Zero. I think if I'm Brian Johnson, right, and I'm not a coach, so obviously, take this all with a grain of salt in terms of actual scheming. I would test the run early. I would try and decide really quick, right? Are we going to be able to have success on the ground or not? Because Trent McDuffie on the outside, he's going to be on A.J. Brown most of the entire evening, maybe a little bit of Devontae Smith. Been one of the best cover corners in the National Football League. Now, the Chiefs' secondary is really good, but McDuffie's their best player right now. And so maybe the shots to A.J. Brown, maybe that 11-catch game for $150 isn't really in the making. I would want to make sure that we are not able to run before I start truly testing McDuffie. That's nothing against A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown can get his no matter what. But think about this. If you're able to run the ball early, and the Chiefs start to go, wait a second, we're getting gashed. Like, we have got to start going, Trent, one-on-one, A.J. Brown, we got to worry about the box, right? Then you hit those deep balls. Then you start hitting those shot plays. And if that's the case, then Philadelphia is going to roll. But if they can't run, then it becomes a drop-back passing game that we've seen Philadelphia have success with, because obviously Jalen Hurts has been great doing that. But then Chris Jones gets involved. Then McDuffie gets involved. Then this secondary that's been really good for the Chiefs starts to kind of get involved. And if Philadelphia has to throw their way to it, sure, they might be able to win. Much easier path, though, was starting with the run and then working in some other players. I would mention, I think you could see some Calcaterra tonight. I think you're going to see some Julio Jones
Yeah.
tonight.
Yep.
And I think that the Chiefs, if I was them, we shut down Devontae, we shut down AJ, and we force 30-something-year-old Julio. We force, year 2 Grant Calcaterra, whatever year he's in, right? Those would be the guys who I think could have kind of an interesting chance to be the breakout players that aren't named AJ Brown or Devontae Smith.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up too. I know we talked about it a little bit. I'm interested as well, like to see how much do we see of a Grant Calcaterra. I mean, from the receiving option, I think that he's a better. You talk about a Jack Stoll of he's going to be blocking and he's much better from that standpoint. But do we see a Calcaterra kind of slide in there, play a little bit
Maybe.
more, have some a little bit of effectiveness, or is it a Julio Jones? We talked about him as like a hybrid tight end. Or you move him more to the slot side, but. I'm interested too because there's going to be things that they've cooked up, obviously, because there's been a lot of time. This wasn't a Dallas Goedert injury. You play a
Right.
game. You had the bye week. There's tons of planning. And by the way, too, I mean, great news. It sounds like Dallas Goedert will be back for the Dallas game. Not 100% official, but I mean, they didn't put him on the IR, so you should hopefully have him there. Otherwise, why waste a roster spot and keep him? So, but in the meantime, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Do you look at Oz, you play a little bit more of a 3-receiver set, or do you look at bringing in Calcaterra? Is it an Alberto situation? I mean, there's tons of athleticism, and we keep talking about all the potential, but you see him out there for, 2 snaps maybe against the Cowboys, or hardly anything. So I don't know, but I'm interested to see that element of the game plan as well. I'm curious, too, because we talk about as far as, we've got the mainstays on the offense, but if we look at the defensive side of the ball, and we're talking about tight end for us, we've mentioned it. Everyone knows it. Travis Kelce is the best tight end, bar
Of
none.
course.
There's no question. And we've had struggles against Travis Kelce. I mean, not going to lie. We've seen it many, many times. He is almost unstoppable. It doesn't matter. Look at all the games that he's played. However, you can look at this season, and there have been a couple instances. I know people may want to point at Taylor Swift was not there, but come on, let's be real. There's other
Right.
reasons why he
Right.
struggled. Do we see Desai cooking up something that's going to be somewhat effective? I know we have Kevin Byard, but what do you see as maybe the most likely to limit? I don't think you're ever going to stop him, but
Yeah.
limiting Travis Kelce.
Well, think about something you mentioned just really before the Kelce situation, and that is the extra time. And that's the extra time for Sean Desai to scheme this up, or likewise Andy Reid. How about the extra time for Kevin Byard? How about the extra time for Bradley Roby? Who, remember, was thrust into this whole nickel situation, gets hurt, hasn't practiced, but then he's essentially had the past 2 weeks to not only get back on the practice field, but start to figure out how to integrate into this defense. And we'll throw in Julio Jones. All three of those players, these new additions the Eagles have felt a little bit not out of place, but a little bit, maybe overwhelmed's the word. They just don't feel comfortable yet, especially Byard, right? Byard we know is good, but he hasn't felt really himself so far the first couple of games here in this new Eagle system. 2 weeks off now. And if there was ever a time where Byard and Roby need to show up, because Roby's going to be in the slot a lot, and Kelce will move out there, and even though it's not an ideal matchup, you're going to see it at times tonight. If Roby can, or really if Byard can shut down Kelce, then Mahomes will be forced to beat you with other players. And these other players are players that aren't good. Now, I'm not saying Sky Moore's a trash player, but is Sky Moore that great? Do we even know his name if he's not on the Chiefs? The answer is, honestly, no. Like, this isn't A.J. Brown. This isn't Tyreek Hill on the other side. If you stop Kelce and you force Mahomes to beat you with other players, either he's not going to be able to, or we're going to shrug our shoulders on Tuesday morning and say, you know what? Patrick Mahomes continues to be that dude. He made Sky Moore look like Tyreek Hill. Couldn't stop it. Got to fix that moving forward. I really think this extra time off is going to give us a really, really, really good chance to hopefully get Byard looking like the all-pro that we traded him to be, because he's been okay. He hasn't been great. And Logan Thomas, talking about tight ends beating up on Philadelphia, Logan Thomas with Washington, he was lined up a lot in that slot against Kevin Byard when Sam Howell, of course, looks like Tom Brady when he plays us twice a year. And he carved us up a little bit. And if Logan Thomas can do it, then Travis Kelce should be able to as well. I'm really excited to see what Byard's going to be able to do.
Yeah, that's my fear. Not a major fear, but to your point, I mean, Logan Thomas, Jake Ferguson for Dallas. There's been some inconsistency so far, but I think, like we talked about, when Howie made the acquisition for Kevin Byard, a lot of times it's, hey, you want to look big picture, and that's certainly what he was doing. But I have to imagine when he's getting Kevin Byard, he's thinking about Travis Kelce, the Monday night game, great, but the potential Super Bowl matchup. Like, if you go back to the Super Bowl, who are you possibly going to see? And you got the Chiefs with the Travis Kelce at the time. You had the Baltimore with Mark Andrews. Now, of course, he's out for season, unfortunately. But, I mean, again, you look at some of those squads that you're going to play, you need that guy. You need to solidify. It's already been a weakness of giving up touchdowns and yards. And, if you ever have a tight end against the Eagles, start them, because fantasy-wise, they've been doing incredible. But I think that's what he'd been looking at. So I'm with you. You want to see that return to the all-pro form, or not even the all-pro form. You just want to see back to his kind of standard level of production from Kevin Byard. So if you get that, possibly we see Reed Blankenship on Kelce a little bit. I know Reed said he's looking forward to the matchup as well. So possibly, kind of the rotation on that side. Maybe it works, but I'm with you. If you force Mahomes to have to go to this receiving core, I mean, I think they're first in drops, aren't they? They're up towards the very top. They might not be first, but they have a lot of drops on Mahomes. So, that also is not helping him. But yeah, there's no dominant playmaker, I think. So you get it to that side, I think you're going to be a little bit more secure, to maybe from the standpoint of being able to count on the defense to limit the opposition there. Because if Kelce isn't doing much, we've seen this team kind of struggle from a little bit, and I think we can count on the run defense, because there's a reason teams don't run it on us, but even whenever they do, they're not that effective. So I'm pretty confident on that side. Let's see. They got a comment here. Jesus Martinez, you guys have become my favorite Eagles guys. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Really appreciate on that side. Shaquille Yuri, I believe is how you say it, says Jalen Hurts will lock down MVP tonight. Book it. That's an interesting storyline too. We haven't mentioned it, but I mean, Jalen's that favorite. I don't see why not. I mean, this is the national stage. You got the rematch and everything. If Jalen goes out and balls out, and it's a team game, but if he goes out and kind of sets the tone, says, "Yep, we're back." Like, this is, the knees feeling great. The turnovers, he's already limited those after kind of an early season scare. But if he goes out and performs, I don't know why he doesn't just kind of take a commanding lead over the MVP battle, at least in my mind.
Right, commanding is the key because there's so much time left, and there are other players who have, had some really good stakes in the MVP claim. But remember what Jalen did in the Super Bowl? I mean, he balled out. He was that.
Yep.
That was the question, because we have to remember where we were going into the postseason last year, and I think people try and just glorify the 2022 team as if they were this invincible squad that had no issues and that were really great. Jalen goes down in the Bears game. The offense has one good week with Gardner Minshew. That was the Cowboy loss. Other than that, the Saints game, atrocious. They weren't that good against the Giants to go ahead and finish up the season, at least to the point where it wasn't like dominating. You go into the playoffs, you crush Daniel Jones, but everybody says, oh, it was Daniel Jones. You crush the 49er defense. Everybody says, oh, well, Brock Purdy wasn't in there, and so that's why you lost, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But then the whole question, the Super Bowl was, okay, now you get to play Patrick Mahomes. Now we're going to get to see the real difference between Jalen Hurts, who's good, but this is Patrick Mahomes, like the greatest of all time. And so there's going to be a big disparity, right? In that game, he outplayed Mahomes. Like, he was better than Patrick Mahomes. And it wasn't really necessarily close.
Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes had some good drives there in the fourth quarter, but he had good drives that were set up, right? One, you had the obviously fumble recovery, which was Jalen's one big problem, which was auto points for the Chiefs. The kick return from Kadarius Toney gets them into field goal, or gets them into scoring range. And then you have blown defensive coverages where Sky Moore and then Kadarius Toney are walking into the end zone, right? Like, it wasn't like Mahomes was leading 90-yard drives and just shredding you. He was playing well, I'm not going to lie. But the better player that day on the other side of the field playing quarterback was Jalen Hurts, and it really wasn't close. He has a chance to do that for 2 times in a row. Twice. Very rarely have we seen people do that besides Joe Burrow. It's a very big statement game tonight. I'm telling you, this is exciting. I mean, this is very, very exciting, and I honestly cannot wait till kickoff, and we're going to be live for that. Of course, a lot of you guys joining us. We're going to be live for the broadcast. Myself, Josh Davis, obviously, just like we're right now, on both of our channels going the entire time. We're going to do pregame, a couple of minutes before kickoff, the entire game, a little bit of a postgame as well, and then we have recaps on Tuesday morning. So if you haven't hit the notification bell, it'll tell you exactly when we go live, and it'll tell you exactly when we post a video. If you guys like the channels, thumbs up, and we'd appreciate that as well.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you too. You talking about Jalen. Let's not forget too, Chris Jones, the best player on the Chiefs defense, is on record. You go to Jalen, you look on YouTube, Jalen Hurts. You've probably already seen him. Jalen Hurts top 100,
right?
The NFL group, and he says the best performance from a QB in a Super Bowl, like the best performance he's seen. So I mean, that's saying something when the player of the opposing team is saying that when he's got Pat Mahomes on his squad. So I'm just saying, there's proof to be made. But yeah, if he does it 2 times in a row, you certainly put even the extra emphasis and, like I say, the commanding lead on the MVP battle for sure. All right, curious because we both have links in the description. So if anybody's looking for a little extra action, way to get in on the game, some potential plays or picks, do you have any potential player props or best bets or just anything you're going with for tonight?
Yeah, I have a couple. I mentioned them on the show yesterday. I think there are some easy ones, right? Gainwell over 18.5 rushing yards, I think, is a lock. I think they liked what they saw 2 weeks ago against the Dallas Cowboys and said, hey, he's not going to turn the football over as we had seen. Maybe he's going to be more of a threat. I like Gainwell over 18.5. Hurts is obviously throwing over 1.5 touchdowns. That's the lock of the night. That's basically guaranteed. And I'll throw it out there. Gainwell first scoring touchdown is like plus 3,000, I think.
Ooh,
it's very unlikely. When they get in the red zone, you saw it on that opening drive with Dallas, they, for whatever reason, feed Gainwell. And at least in the Dallas Cowboy game, he scored. So I like Gainwell to be the first scorer. And, I mean, come on, the Eagles are winning outright, so Philly plus 2.5. I think there are some pretty obvious bets that are, I mean, not guaranteed to hit because nothing is guaranteed to hit. But come on, I feel like there's some real opportunities here tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. Definitely on the 2.5. That was very early on. Whenever I saw the line, I'm like, okay. Being a homer pick too, but at the same time, it's like it's 2.5. You're giving me the points. The Eagles haven't been underdogs since I think the Bucks playoff game in 2021, I believe, was the last time they were underdogs. I think so. I think it's been that long. Been a really long time. I know that. So it's like, all right, well, hey, if you're telling me you're getting some plus money or some points you're going to give me there, I'll take it. But yeah, I like that one. The other, I like the Gainwell, especially, again, if you sign up through the links on either of our description, you get some bonus funds, some bonus bets. So usually, it's a little extra to put on it. Take a big flyer. I like the Gainwell plus 3,000 there. But the one that I don't know, I was leaning towards, and it's been a while, but first touchdown score for DeAndre Swift. I think Swift has a big game too. He's plus 900. So I could see either running back situation there. I just, for some reason, this is just the weather. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that the Chiefs can be susceptible to the run. We saw Javonte Williams for the Broncos have a good game. We've seen a couple different backs. Whenever the teams are able to run the ball, or I guess choose to run the ball a lot of times they don't. Maybe they fall behind, start passing. But I think if you stick to it, you're going to see the backs play well. So you know what? Hey, either you go with the Kenny Gainwell first touchdown, maybe a DeAndre Swift, but I like both of those as potential options for a score. And again, you got a plus 900 at that one, or a plus 3,000, like you say, for Kenny Gainwell.
Not
I think
bad.
those are not bad to put a little flyer on.
And let's just say this: the Eagles reporter, she works for Philadelphia. I'm blanking on her name right now. Forgive me. She's in Kansas City covering the team. She says there's a lot of Kelly Green and a lot of Go Birds. I think there's going to be a
Okay,
lot
yes.
more disparity in color than it normally is, being all red at Arrowhead. I think it's going to be obviously wildly in favor of Kansas City. I'm not saying we're going to take over like we do Washington, but look for more Kelly Green in the stands. And I know we gave tickets to two people who are going to be at the game tonight, months ago, and hope they have a bunch of fun for that one. But we're pumped for this one. Let's go ahead and wrap up with score predictions and kind of explain why. I think 27-21. I think the Eagles are going to have a lot of opportunities to win this football game. And it might not be as close as 27-21. If I'm being honest, I could see Philadelphia being up 2 scores. Mahomes scores with 4 minutes left, makes it a 6-point game. You give the ball back to Philadelphia, and they don't do 3 straight runs and a fumble like we saw against the Cowboys trying to close things out. I think they close things out. I think they get the best 4-minute drive of the season. They ice this game, and they win by 6, which really was winning by double digits because Mahomes would have scored in garbage time. That's my prediction. I know yours is closer, and you say a little bit more grinded out, right?
Yes, yeah, I can appreciate that. I honestly love the optimism. For some reason, I'm a little bit more conservative and cautiously optimistic maybe, but yeah, I'm going 24-21. Shout out to D who says I'm going to be on the road tonight because I'm driving, listening to you guys. Hopefully, it's as entertaining as the Cowboys game you called. Yeah, I mean. Hopefully it's as entertaining, but not as stressful. But although my prediction 24-21 maybe alludes to the fact that it will be stressful, what I'm thinking. Honestly, I'm with you though from the standpoint of I think that on paper, if you look at the teams, it just seems like the Eagles should be able to assert their dominance. Like we should be able to play well. There's a couple elements like we've talked about here of Travis Kelce and Mahomes and Andy Reid and all that, but it wouldn't totally surprise me if it is a scenario like you're talking about. But I think the one that's keeping me from doing that and saying it's a close field goal at the end or maybe a stop on a drive at the end is the Andy Reid factor, the Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes factor. You haven't beaten them. It's at Arrowhead, Monday night game, gonna be lit. I until I see it, I think that's why I'm holding to. I do think we win, but it is going to be a grinded out, tough game that we're better for, obviously, at the end. So that's what I'm going with, 24-21.
Think about 9-1. Think about waking up tomorrow 9-1.
Insane.
I don't know. It sounds good to me. We'll see how it goes. All right, of course, tonight, one more little plug here. We're going to be live for the game. We're going live 30, 15 minutes, whatever it is, before the game, pregame. Be sure to check us out. Hit the notification bell. If you are watching, which obviously you probably are on ESPN, mute the TV, listen to us call the game. You sync it. Make sure you guys can sync to the play that we're calling. It's a bunch of fun tonight for the play-by-play. We appreciate you guys watching for. All the time we have for today on this little preview show. If you missed the beginning, it's going to replay, so just watch it as you normally would. For Josh Davis, I'm Thomas Mott. Signing off. Go Birds. Let's get to 9-1 tonight.
Go Birds. We'll see you then.